The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and thanks for joining today's webinar looking at ways to protect SaaS applications and credentials. My name is Shona Bradshaw. I'm delighted to be joined today by Tom Kendrick, who is from Check Point Software Technologies, who'll be looking today at some of the attacks that are targeting SaaS applications and credentials and the new technology that Check Point have introduced in order to provide advanced protection for those for that infrastructure. So just get a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So I'll give a very brief intro to Bytes. I will keep it brief, as many of you know us already. I'll be talking a little bit around why SaaS applications and credentials have become a growing target for bad actors out in the marketplace. Before I introduce Tom, Tom will be taking you through some of the, almost like a SaaS Protection 101, so some of the best practices and tactics that you can take in order to protect SaaS applications and credentials. And then we'll give a detailed introduction to Check Point CloudGuard SaaS, that has a new product to the market, which is going to be launching this summer to provide advanced layers of protection. We'll lastly do a Q&A at the end, so please do pop your questions via the chat, the questions box, and we'll make sure that those are shared with you and to Tom at the end. So housekeeping for today's session, we have got attendee lines on mute throughout today's presentation, but as I said, please do post your questions via the chat and the questions box, and we will do an interactive Q&A at the end. In terms of today's session, we'll keep it to strategy, solutions and technologies. We won't go in depth into commercials on this session. Of course, those conversations are more than welcome with your Bytes account manager at the end of the session. We are recording today's session, so we'll make that available via the recording link to you by the end of the day today. And we have a feedback survey at the end, so please do take the time to take a 6-question survey just to make sure that these sessions continue to hit that mark for you technically. So who are Bytes? Bytes are the security specialist reseller within the Bytes technology group. So what we aim to do is to marry the agility, the insight and the personal approach, the expertise that you would expect from the smallest specialist reseller with the resources and the stability and the scope that you can benefit from that comes from being part of a multi-billion-dollar group. We're exceptionally proud and really stand and fall on the technical expertise that we wrap around the technologies and the solutions and the partners that we work with. We have a team of fully accredited engineers and account managers. We provide in-house consultancy and a full technical services portfolio, not just around Check Point, but other providers. Because of that, we enjoy top-tier vendor statuses, such as our 4-star elite status with Check Point. And that means we can deliver both on the technical side, but also for you in terms of commercial value. We work across the whole spectrum of information security, from the classic next-generation firewalling and the perimeter solutions, through content security, data security, and increasingly we are speaking to customers around securing their journeys to the cloud, securing their software as a service, and securing their mobility journeys as well. Across all of these, what we offer is that suite of technical services around that. That ranges from direct to engineer support, through scoping, project planning, technology and market mapping, training for your internal teams, and knowledge transfer. So we really are an extra arm, an extra pair of hands within your technical team that have that in-depth knowledge of the next generation firewall space and the Check Point solution stack. That's enough about us. Why are we speaking with businesses at the moment about SaaS applications and credentials? Well, businesses are increasingly developing these. They are increasingly moving to software as a service, and that has led to hackers cottoning on to the fact that this is a really beneficial and potentially lucrative vector of attack for them. At the same time, businesses are seeing parts of their organisations spin up their own clouds, and that shadow IT is emerging as a real problem that's amplifying this as a lucrative attack vector. In the marketplace, we're seeing increasing data protection legislation, and the impact of a data breach is becoming increasingly critical So understanding the latest tools and tactics and strategies is critical to your business in future-proofing your growth, your move to the cloud, and in ensuring that the technology investments you make are secure. So that's why we're running today's webinar, where we're looking at some of the new protection solutions that are launching this summer from Check Point that can ensure that where you are investing in software service applications, that they are appropriately protected. So all that remains for me to do is to introduce Tom. He's our specialist checkpoint engineer, looks after threat prevention and has a very in-depth knowledge of their cloud suite as well. Checkpoint really are the global leader in network and endpoint next generation threat prevention. We've been working with them for multiple years and as a top tier partner for over 5 years. So we're delighted that they've chosen to allow us to share a preview of this new to market solution, which isn't even GA yet. So it'll be GA in the coming weeks, but they're allowing us to share with you how it can add value when it's available at the EA stage. So I'm going to pass over to Tom now. He's going to be taking you through some insights into SaaS application security and the new solution that they have developed to help. Over to Tom.
Morning everyone. So give me just 1 second while I share my screen. So hopefully you can now see my screen. So yeah, good morning. My name is Tom Kendrick. I'm part of a European team at Check Point, as Shona quite rightly said, historically part of a threat prevention group, now also helping out customers in a slightly different capacity as well, just to make sure that everything for them goes well and successful in the kind of new and emerging technologies that they might be taking from us. As we said, we're going to look at SaaS applications, and we are going to take a little preview of our CloudGuard SaaS solution, launching in the not too distant future, as Shona quite rightly said. So let's begin. I was grabbing a few stats from a number of kind of well-known organizations, and again, if we take a look at people like Gartner, this is back in 2016, they said over 70% of enterprises are adopting cloud applications. I was looking a little bit more recently, and obviously it's very much in their favor. I was looking more recently at some work Microsoft had done, saying that sort of more currently that's probably over 80% now. So we are very, very much aware that with the ease and simplicity, the instant provisioning that you can get from adopting or using any of these cloud-based applications or software as a service providers, there is often going to be huge benefit for you, but there's also the potential for some security risk as well. And we don't need to go too far back to remember what happened to our Parliament. So they were users of Office 365, and again in 2017 there was an attack on them that caused access to emails to be disabled for a brief amount of time. Now, to try and give you a kind of a real world example, this is actually from an incident that came into our incident response team at Check Point. However, we've changed the name of the company. Okay, so what did we see? This organization, for which we'll call them K Financials, they moved their emails to the cloud. They chose Microsoft, and one of the things that they started to notice was money wasn't coming in, bills weren't being paid. Okay, it turns out when we got involved and we started to look back, again, working with Microsoft, working with the customer, we were able to uncover that within this organization, customers had been receiving, shall we say, email invoices with faked or incorrect or modified bank account information. Okay, because those messages were sent by a hacker who overtook or took control of the account person within this organization, the senior account person within this organization, when their customers received the up-to-date information on please send your money here, we've updated our bank information, kind of please settle all your bills to this account instead at the end of the month, there was around $2 million that was stolen. Okay, now it sounds a bit crazy, these huge kind of numbers, but the same is true for smaller organizations as well. Okay, I myself have been involved with customers who are not currently Check Point customers, but they were friends of people working for Check Point UK who had been involved in account takeover, and the realization of the beauty of the cloud, that means it's accessible from anywhere, anybody can sign in, it's always up, it's always available, is a wonderful thing for the IT organization, it's a wonderful thing for the business, it's great for availability, but actually this can be used to the advantage of the bad guys as well. And this customer that I was helping in the UK, they were an estate agent, and in their case, we believe, again, difficult to track back when nothing is in place, but we believe that their teams, their estate agents' teams, were shoulder surfed. And in this particular case, house deposit funds were transferred to a different account. Again, a huge problem, and it doesn't need to be thousands or millions or billions of dollars or pounds or euros. This can apply to anyone, and it's our money. Okay, so it's really key that we make sure that we're doing what we can to protect those customer accounts as well. Now, from all of the data that we had within our incident response unit within Check Point, from Q1 to Q3 2017, the biggest threat that we are seeing to SaaS applications is account takeover. Okay, now that's still to say that malware is still a very big chunk, and again, as things like obviously with GDPR now in force, and obviously the Data Protection Act that was already there, that's not to say that malware and data protection are not also important avenues. But what we saw was how account takeover can be the start of something bad taking place in the organization. So what we're trying to convey as a message is, yes, SaaS is brilliant, but do not be blinded by the great availability, the great access, and all these other good things, and ignore security. Security of SaaS should be just as important as security of any other device, be that your data center, be that your internal network, be that your mobile device. So just think you need to apply the same kind of technologies, the same kind of protections, and you need the same visibility, even if it's in a SaaS application. So this is where we have, as we said, our CloudGuard SaaS product. Its goal is to give us the threat prevention for SaaS applications. Okay. Our key focus always will be your data and the protection of your data. But what we're able to do now with this tool is to extend, using this web-based platform, Check Point security protections into these SaaS-based apps. apps. Okay, so for example, things like Office 365, Amazon, Azure, Google, Dropbox. Again, there's a huge number of platforms that we are able to support. And hopefully what this means is, as and if you do decide to use these cloud apps, you can do so knowing that you've got that same security that you would have from Check Point on premise, also available to these cloud providers. So what does it offer? Well, obviously we offer protection from zero-day threats. We offer identity protection, as we said, to ensure that you don't have that account takeover challenge. We give you all of the Check Point intelligence, so all the intelligence from Threat Cloud built into the decisions that we make. We give you a simple management GUI. We can help you avoid data loss and data leakage, and we can also help you in a number of ways, both on-prem and in cloud, understand if there is any shadow IT going on, where potentially, because these cloud apps or these solutions are so simple, potentially people may be using them and you're not fully aware at the moment. So, how does CloudGuard SaaS work? Well, very simply, we take advantage of APIs. So using the APIs from those providers that you can see in the top right corner of the screen at the moment, what we're able to do is get notifications of events, of files, of different activities taking place within those cloud platforms. We are able to integrate and also feed into identity providers. So for example, ADFS, and again, where the cloud provider might use your identity provider as well to give access. Again, we can get information from the identity provider and we can give information to the identity provider. One of the ways that we can do this is to have risk profiles. So from the software installed on your phone, from an agent installed on your laptop, we're able to understand, is this device of a sufficient security level and standpoint to make sure that, yes, I'm happy for it to access those tools. And then, as we said, bringing all of that together, we can bring in Check Point's intelligence from Threat Cloud, and we can also bring in the Check Point security stack. So our ability to do zero-day protection, our ability to prevent data loss, and again, understand whether there is shadow IT in the business. All of what we've seen here is brought together in a simplified management platform, again, completely web-based. So one of the great things here is this can suit a Check Point customer who is already a Check Point customer, or this can suit a customer who is completely cloud or a user of another security platform. So how does it work? Well, again, the threat prevention is there to give us our guarantees that there is no malware, there are no zero-day threats in anything that's coming into any of our messaging apps, our mail, our file storage. How do we do that? Well, we can use our Check Point Sandblast suite of families. Again, as a suite of solutions, Sandblast scored 100% in the NSS Labs breach prevention system test. Okay, so a huge sort of plus point for Check Point as a provider of that security. We are able to offer you not just that great sandboxing capability, but at launch, we'll also give you the ability to extract files. And what that means is, it means we can say, if I'm delivered a document file, can I ensure that I deactivate, so remove or convert, so I could maybe remove code, links, macros, whatever it might be, or potentially convert the document file from one format into PDF. Okay. I've got phishing protection. So again, some great phishing protection built into the solution to complement already what you may be getting from your existing provider. So if I am a hacker, if I message you, I email you, or I share, for example, into an open share or some sort of share in your environment, a malicious file, what will happen is that cloud provider will indicate to Check Point, yes, there is a new file detected. The file will be sent to Check Point CloudGuard and then on to our threat prevention platform. Sandblast will then give us a verdict on the file. If the file is found to be malicious, then obviously what we can do is take some sort of action, maybe quarantine. And again, the decision there really is down to what does that cloud provider allow us to do, and also your decision as an administrator. When it comes to identity protection, this is where our ID Guard product helps us both on mobiles and on endpoints. And again, there are two options that we have here. So again, if we think of what's happening when the bad guy tries to attack us, the attacker may try and shoulder surf you, for example, and then try and understand or get hold of your credentials. So they will often go through one of your ID brokers, your identity brokers, to try and sign into your cloud app using those stolen credentials. Okay, and this is what we're seeing time and time again. Okay, the simple stuff. So people using their devices in public places in full view of someone else, or using a shared system with some sort of keylogger. It's the simplest things that are often leading to the worst kind of attacks. Okay, obviously if your credentials are correct, if you're the bad guy, your identity provider will say yes and sign you in. What we're able to do with our ID Guard capability within CloudGuard SaaS is to say there are one of two ways of operation. Okay, there is an agentless method. Okay, so for example, if the employee tries to sign into the identity provider, we obviously can feed in and feedback and get information from the device if we wish. Okay, and we can guarantee that yes, it was that employee signing in from that device to the provider or to that solution. Okay, because we can validate that yes, we saw that sign-in event just a second ago. Now, if the hacker tries to sign in using those same credentials through the identity provider to your cloud app, then what happens here is the ID Guard component will say, hang on a second, I didn't see that request from that user on their device just trying to sign in then and there. Okay, therefore we can see it's an illegitimate login, therefore we can block access. So even though that hacker may have the credentials, we can stop them signing in. Okay, and we can do that kind of pop-up message to say, I've seen you signed in from just a second ago, was this you? So a little bit like the kind of the authenticator applications that you probably use from some providers already. Okay, so that was a solution with the software in place. As we said, there is also an agentless mode. And in this mode, you can define your own rules for the type of device, the operating system, maybe IPs or locations that you might be signing in from or using. And here, the clever thing will be, if based on the intelligence that Check Point can give you, I see you doing something like signing in from too many places at once, I see you signing in from a number of locations that are quite geographically dispersed. Again, these may be things that I might not allow. Okay, and again, what we could do there is potentially send you some sort of message, just say, is this you? Can you validate? Can you just confirm this is good? this is intentional. Okay, the really cool thing that I've seen with this, with some of our early availability customers, is we actually get to see when customers or their staff start to travel, we start to see all the different sign-ins from all over the world, as you'll see a little bit later in the software. You can also see as well with this kind of technology that if we find that that information is just the odd one or two sign-ins, again, we can show that in one color. If we start to see groups of people signed in from a certain region or location, again, that becomes more the norm. Okay. Now, all of this, obviously, we don't want it to be manual. So what we will try and do is guarantee that all of the information that comes into Check Point from all of our customers is brought into Threat Cloud. And as you can see, Threat Cloud gets input from around 100 million gateways and endpoints. So it's an absolutely enormous source of information. Okay, and based on that information and based on the additional work by our researchers, by our partners, by our feeds and intelligence that we are working on, this is the kind of information that you are benefiting from when you take a solution like CloudGuard SaaS. Okay, as far as the management UI, this is the web-based portal that you can see. Again, you can see here in the overview that we've got potentially any malware events in the top left corner. We can see any phishing events. We can see shadow IT. We can see data loss prevention. We can see, as we discussed, the login event, so where we're seeing our users sign in from. Again, we might see that North America, Europe, and South America are more common, whereas other parts of the world may be less common, and we may be drawn to take a look a little bit further into those incidents. At the bottom, we can see the different cloud providers that we are currently hooked into. And again, we can see what we've scanned, what we are yet to scan, the users, etc. And in the middle left there, we can see the most recent events taking place. As we said, one of the other key capabilities here is to make sure that we can be aware if you are sharing sensitive data. Okay, and again, as time goes on, more and more of this may be not just over document shares or email, but other applications as well. Okay, so again, as we discussed, we have the ability to hook into these other apps and understand for you whether there is data loss going on. So again, if someone shares data, we will see this using an API. The software will do a scan. If we do find that with the content was sensitive, again, we can message or alert back using an API to that cloud provider, maybe to quarantine, to unshare, to alert the person involved. And then finally, as we look at the shadow IT capabilities, first thing, just as a reminder, with the number of applications and the granularity of applications that you have as a Check Point customer, if you are running things like application control, if you are running URL filtering, if you are running our data loss or our content inspection technologies, you already have some hugely capable ability within your organization to control who shares what from within the corporate estate. Okay, and again, what we're doing with CloudGuard SaaS, slightly different, but what we're doing with CloudGuard SaaS is we're saying, why don't I take a look at all of the messages that are arriving into my messaging platforms? And if I start to see use of these different messaging platforms, Dropbox, Evernote, GitHub, whatever it might be, if I start to see use of these platforms, then what I can do is then make a strategic decision whether these are platforms platforms that I will choose for my users to use, or potentially get in contact with that user and remind them of corporate policy. Okay, so this gives us coverage whether we're in business, outside business. And obviously the cool thing with what we can do with all the data that comes back into Check Point Smart Event is we can now see and create reports for the data that you might be sending potentially to cloud through your gateways in these single reports. Okay, so it gives you that great visibility. So as we come to summarize, CloudGuard SaaS is there to help those who are going to cloud, help those who are using cloud by providing the 0-day threat protection. It's going to ensure that we don't have any account takeover. It's going to validate that there are no kind of silly rules that people are forwarding all their corporate emails out to Gmail or Hotmail or whatever it might be. It's going to make sure that all of the intelligence, both for files that we see, both for data that comes in, for user login events, etc., all of those things are covered because everything that CloudGuard SaaS sees is matched against and checked against Check Point's Cloud Threat Intelligence. Okay, it gives us a management platform that's web-based. So if we're a Check Point customer, great. If we're a non-Check Point customer, perfect. Okay, there is no hardware. This is all completely cloud-based, cloud managed. And for whatever does land into that cloud, again, not only can we do the 0-day and the known malware and links and phishing protections, but we can also make sure that there is no data leakage. And again, often the precursor to data leakage is the use of shadow IT. Okay, so key takeaways is we can prevent account takeovers, we can give you visibility and security, we can block 0-day and advanced threats, okay, and we can give you end-to-end coverage. So with this solution, again, we won't talk commercials at the moment, but there is a fixed cost per user. And that means that if you take 1, 2, or 10 SaaS apps, the cost is the same. Okay, so we give you protections regardless of which solution you might use. So that's it from me. I will now just pause the screen sharing and we can let Shona rejoin us.
Thanks, Tom. That was a really useful presentation. Thanks, everyone, for attending today as well. So I just want to take a moment to ask anyone to pose any questions they may have about Tom's presentation. Of course, if there are commercial questions, etc., in terms of when it's launching, etc., then I'd be more than happy to field those after the webinar as well. And while I wait for anyone to pop anything over via the questions in the chat box to ask those questions, I just want to thank Tom very much for taking the time out of his busy morning to give us an overview of this new to market solution. And thank everyone else for their time in attending. We do appreciate, particularly this week, as we get into the summer, taking time out to attend such sessions is quite difficult. So thank you very much for actually dialing in and attending. As I said, the session has been recorded, so we'll make sure that is shared with you as well as Tom's slides. If you'd like to receive them, then obviously get in touch and I will send them across. I haven't got any other questions come in yet, so I'm just going to wrap up for everyone. Of course, if you have questions that occur to you after the webinar, please do drop me a note when I send the recording and I'll pose those to Tom via your Bytes account manager. Thanks for attending, everyone. Thank you.